Sounds good. Okay, is everybody ready? Okay, so this is the, okay, your camera doesn't really need to be on for this. That's okay, Isaac. But this is the judge adaptation seminar. And so basically every judge is different. No judge is going to be the same. So we as debaters kind of need to adapt how we debate to best tailor to each judge. And that's what this seminar is going to be on. So there are essentially three types of judges. The first is lay judges, and these are going to be your most inexperienced judges. And on the Alabama debate circuit, I would say that these are the most common. It's going to be a lot of parent judges who are just roped in by their kids and don't have much experience with debate or the topic. They may be taking some notes, but it's rare. They're less likely to flow vertically and flow properly, and evaluate everything you say. They may not be paying attention a lot. I've literally had a judge go to sleep in a round. And then on tab room, they a lot of times will not have a paradigm. And I'm pretty sure we looked at some paradigms yesterday in the ethics seminar, but paradigms are just like a something on tab room that shows what the judge prefers. So if a lay judge or if a judge in general doesn't have a paradigm, you should always, before the round starts, ask the judge if they want to see anything in the debate round or if they have any preferences for the debate round. And so a lot of the preferences that you'll hear from lay judges is emphasizing presentation. So they're going to talk about like lay judges really want to see persuasive speaking and a passionate narrative. So because they don't have a lot of knowledge on the topic, they're more likely to, like, you can be saying nonsense, but if you're saying it really confidently and you're speaking really well, they can be swayed to believe it. So a few things to do when you have lay judges: avoid spreading, which is just, first of all, you shouldn't really be spreading in public forum. You can at really high levels if you have the right judge, but lay judges, you should not be spreading at all. You should be going pretty slowly because they generally won't be able to understand if you go faster. And then along with that, you need to enunciate and make good eye contact with the judge, try to get that like personal connection kind of, and then establish a clear narrative, and talk about why your narrative wins, like kind of tell a good story that that your judge can kind of like understand and relate to and like feel connected to. Don't use debate vernacular and jargon, like they just won't understand it, they won't know what all it means. And then you really want to toe the line between like assertiveness but not being like aggressive, because lay judges, they will vote on how much they like you. Like if you're being really mean, they could vote you down for that. But at the same time, you don't want to seem like your opponents are like completely dominating you in cross and they're like controlling the debate round. um so you want to keep perceptual dominance and find that balance with politeness.
The second part to late judging is just going over what Wesley was just saying again, but like perception matters. So you always want to talk slowly, look them in the eye, and like wear some decent clothes, like formal clothes. And then like ballot directive language, like paint a picture for them to where it's like the easiest for them to like understand. And also final focus is going to probably be the most important speech that you do. So like one, you always, like if you do win the coin flip, you always want to flip second because then you get the last speech in. And that's the one thing that they'll remember the most. But even if you don't get second speaking team, you still want to have a really good final focus because like that's the thing that's they're gonna listen to the most. Fourth is partner dynamics. It's just basically like make sure you and your partner are on the same page about what you're trying to do and like you guys work well together because that also shows like in the debate round how organized you guys are and like and in like grand cross. And then obviously you want to have understandable language, like just don't talk really fast, basically. And then narrative at the top is basically what I was saying, like paint a picture for them at the beginning so that they like see what you're talking about, and then like just give them the easiest path to the ballot. And then also like with different extensions, just basically you go for something that you know that they're going to understand, not something that like they would never understand in the first place.
Okay, you guys can look over this later, but what some people will do, and we'll distribute this PowerPoint, but what some people will do is they'll have different cases for the different types of judges. So you see like the lay case has the least number of words because you need to speak slower with lay judges. But you don't have to have a different case for each type of judge, but if you guys want to look over this to see the differences, you can. Okay, so flay judging. So flay judges are their basically middle ground between most experienced and least experienced. They will probably be taking notes, but they may not be flowing like completely properly, or they may not be flowing vertically. It's often adults who like did high school debate but haven't done it in a while or have little experience with it, like more traditional debaters. And so with flay judges, they will probably have like maybe not necessarily knowledge of the topic, but like some knowledge of how debates should work. So you need to be able to win both on the flow, and you need to be more rhetorically persuasive. You need to be able to like capture their attention, have that presentation going for you. And then later you guys should all go and watch this. It's a really good example of a play speech.
And the last type of judging is flow or tech judging. These are going to be judges who will flow the debate, so they'll like, properly flow and they'll know how to debate. They'll either have like experience debating in high school or college or even coaching. And their paradigm will also have like a lot more technical jargon things, and like it's more specific to a lot of things. Like it'll talk about case or theory, speed, and all that. Like it'll all be there. They'll be also more likely to evaluate like arguments that you couldn't run with a lay judge, i.e., like unusual impacts, faster debating, jargon heavy debates, or like they'll even let you like collapse on a turn and like drop case, and they'll still evaluate the round. And then they'll also evaluate like things like disads or critiques in theory. So there's three important tips when you have a flow or tech judge. One, arguments have to be properly extended across the flow to be evaluated. So what this means is like you have to extend like your uniqueness link in terms of like warranting all over an impact. And then you also want to signpost clearly, which means like you tell the judge where you are in the flow. So like if you're in rebuttal and you're giving a rebuttal against your opponents, you'd be like on their contention one, they say this, four responses, blah, blah, blah. Then their blanketed evidence says this, it's wrong because of blah, 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 you know, like that's what signposting is. And then third, you always want to weigh. This is probably the most important thing you do because it shows why you should be winning the round. But most importantly, it should be comparative weighing, which means that you're weighing your weighing against their weighing and showing which one is more important or like better. And if you meta weigh, which I I don't know if beginner lab talked about, but like advanced lab will be talking about this, is basically where you're weighing mechanisms. So like I think in the demo debate I attempted it, I was like prefer probability over scope because like, oh, or like prefer probability over extinction because like, and there's extinction is such an existential risk. Me walking to my chair, I could die, but like it's super improbable. So prefer probable impacts. Like that's what meta weighing is basically. And it'll help you get like 30s on speaks, which is important for like bubble rounds.
Okay. So how to tell what type of judge a judge is. So the best way to tell is just check the paradigm. So when you go to tab room, you could either like go to this tab paradigms and then manually enter their name. But if you're like assigned a room on tab, like if you're assigned a round on tab room, what you can do is just click your email right here and then like the round will pop up and there'll be like a little P by your judge's name. And if you click that, it'll take you to the paradigm. So looking at paradigms, a lay judge could have no paradigm. That's going to be most common, but you have to be careful of this. And this is another reason why you always have to ask for preferences, because a lot of times, like there will just be like tech judges who are just too lazy to make a paradigm. So if there is no paradigm, definitely ask for preferences, but it's probably going to be a lay judge. Parent judges are almost always lay because they don't have any debate experience. It's just through their kids, who their kids just wrote them into judging. And then a short paradigm that emphasizes speaking and presentation, like we were talking about, and ones with little judging experience. So, like, if you go to your judge's paradigm and scroll down, it shows all the rounds that they've judged. So, if they have like no rounds judged or very few, they're probably lay. Again, there are exceptions, which is why it's always important to ask for preferences before round. And then tech judge, they're going to have a long specific paradigm, and we're going to look at paradigms after this so you can see. But like their paradigm will typically say that they have debate experience. If they have a lot of judging experience, that too points to them being tech. And then when you're asking preferences, you can ask technical questions to the tech judge to kind of litmus test and just see how qualified they are. A lot of college students are typically tech judges because they're just like high school debaters who their high school teams get them to judge for them at tournaments. And then flay judges are just kind of going to be a mix of the two. Like they'll have like a bit of a paradigm, but it won't be that long or specific. But the paradigms aren't always perfect. Like there are exceptions, which means you always need to ask preferences before round.
Okay, so this is like two examples of what a lay judge paradigm would look like. So like the first one at the top is if you have convincing and logical arguments, you can effectively counter and prove your stand. It'll help me to vote for you. I would stop you for the type of discussion that is totally irrelevant to the debate. I'm here to listen to your points. Please do not rush or speed read. I would like to hear your arguments clearly and in a calm voice, and please make sure to have your piece of evidence / cards. I will request to see it. So this is like a semi-lay, barely flay judge, because somehow they're asking for evidence, but like you can see like, oh, it says like don't rush speed, have convincing and logical arguments. Most people who do say that, they're not like immediately lay, but like most of the time they will be a lay judge if they tell you to say that, or tell you in their paradigm. And then also like if they tell you that they're gonna stop the debate because of like a discussion that's happening in the debate round, they're most likely not going to be like a tech judge. And then there'll be like some paradigms who outright say that they're a lay judge like this. I'm a parent judge and a lay judge. Please keep your speaking speed reasonable and be clear. And like that's just obviously they're a lay judge.
Okay, so now we're gonna look at some examples of tech judges. Okay. So this is This is Cholestasis' paradigm. He was a Vestavia debater. But you see, he says flow judge right there. Some of it is a bit jokey, but you can tell that he's a flow judge just by like the stuff that he says. It lets you skip right across, post from me. Yeah, so right, Zach's Zach's is quite long. Um, yeah, Zach goes on for a while and has a lot of stuff. Oh, tech over truth. So you can easily see that he is a tech judge. Yeah, that's Nate Condon, the Vestavia coach. Here's mine. Mine is considerably shorter than Zach's, but you can still see that I'm a tech judge. I have my experience debating right there. Consider myself a tech judge, tech over truth, and then okay, never mind. So, okay, so those are some examples of tech judges. Okay. So some tips for any round. So, you shouldn't have to adapt that much. Like there are some people who have a lay case and a flow case, but you should be able to have one case that you can argue well and apply to all judges and just make like a cohesive argument that any judge can find appealing. So you want to be able to make a good case that all judges be able to interact with. Um, and so lay judges emphasize like speaking clearly, but you should be doing that in any round anyway. In any round, you should be running fair arguments and frameworks, extending the link, warrant, and the impact, responding to their offense, and especially signposting. Signposting is really important. And in no round, you should not be doing just a monotone presentation that isn't really interacting with the judge. You shouldn't be doing blippy extensions. You should be properly explaining everything and why it matters at the round. And especially no harassing the other team in cross or speeches. And don't harass the judge. We went over post rounding yesterday. Do not argue with the judge. That's like the worst thing you can do. Okay, before we do the quiz, are there any questions? You can type them in the chat or just unmute and ask them. Okay, so ask, why do lay judges vote off of cross? So technically cross is not supposed to be voted off of. It's just a time to gain like offense that you later bring up in another speech. You shouldn't like a judge technically isn't supposed to judge off of cross, but lay judges often do, and that's just because like it's a great source of clash that often really shows which team is more dominant. Like if one team in cross is being really dominant and they're asking all of the questions and they're really just like being more dominant in cross and their opponents are just shrinking away from questions or don't have any other questions to ask, even if they do a really great job at the rest of the round, that cross can really show a judge, oh, this team isn't winning the round. They're less dominant. Like they don't know what they're doing. So that's why a lot of lay judges often vote up cross, because they're really looking for that presentation. And when they see two presentation styles clash directly in cross, it can be really catastrophic for one team. Are there any other questions? Okay, we can go to the quiz now. So go to joinmyquiz.com and enter the code 583045.